What a time to be alive, the age of information. So many people questioning creation. Come, take a seat or step outside to have a conversation. Let's listen, observe, and respond with compassion and truth. Welcome back to another episode of the Fearless Shepherds podcast. This is episode number 21. We have David Colturi back for round two. I listened to our podcast and it was beautiful to see a lot of the things that we spoke of and how they've not only come to fruition, but far exceeded even what we were or thought we could create at the time that we spoke last, June 11th, 2022, and we're here in May. Sunny, beautiful day here in Los Angeles. You were up at 4 a.m. doing a Red Bull run. God bless you, dude.
Life, baby.
What was the run about? I thought that was a really cool thing that you were doing.
Yeah. The first Sunday of May every year. This is year 10 that they've had the Wings for Life World Run. The Wings for Life Foundation is Red Bull's project of finding a cure for spinal cord injury. And so the first Sunday of May every year, everyone around the world runs at the same time. And so here in California, we get the 4 a.m. slot. Europeans are running midday, and East Asia and Australia is running at nighttime. But it's a cool way for the world to come together for a very good cause to find a cure for spinal cord injury.
That dedication doesn't surprise me that you were up running the beach like a champ. We just had a birthday celebration for you at your place, and we were joking before the pod of like your training, and you were talking about the end of, you know, your professional career and that transition. I'm like, that doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon. You were training like a madman, and it's so fun to see. We'll talk a little bit about your road to recovery over this last year, but just a checkup, man. It's been awesome to see since last year the friendship continue to create, the community continue to grow. Your journey of kind of being a Red Bull athlete and going on the voyage that you did last year, coming back, the injury, just checking people in. If people were able to listen to the podcast episode, bringing them back up to speed with Colturi's life. And then for those that weren't able to listen, like, you're a Red Bull athlete. What does that mean? What is it that you do? And what were some of the things that stood out to you from the last conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stoked to be back. Thank you for having me. This community that we've been building together and the friendship that we've had. I know we spoke maybe a month after meeting each other at Coachella last year, and it's crazy to think how far we've come, and those highlights of family, community, training, and this love that we've shared and are expounding upon is really, really cool. So gratitude and thank you for having me back.
Of course, dude.
But yeah, the check-in from last year, I mean, it's crazy. We're here 11 months later, and the season, if anyone followed, did not go according to plan, as life does. Started off super strong, had a good couple events, was up towards the top of the rankings, and was feeling good moving into middle of the season, and unfortunately had a rough landing on a high dive. And so for those that are new to the pod or to the life of Diver Dave, I compete in cliff diving. The Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series has brought modern cliff diving into an era of spectacular high dives from about 27 meters, which is almost 90 feet above the water. And that's about the height of an 8th story building. So if you're ever staying on the 8th floor and you get to look out your window or the balcony, it's way too high.
What's that like looking down prior to a jump? I mean, you do it so often that, like, for me, I have shivers running down my spine just thinking about it. But like that, to me, it's just so foreign to look at that leap and just have presence of mind. So what is the way that you're able to calm the nerves in that situation of a 8-story building?
Yeah, it's the challenge. It is being able to control your body and your mind and your emotions in a way that helps you perform something that you need to practice. So number one, you definitely need to do the physical preparations to get up there.
Right.
And it is for sure a heavy background in traditional springboard and platform diving or gymnastics or trampoline, but you have to have the wits about you to know how to jump, flip and twist, fly through the air, and find your feet on the water.
Right.
So that for sure is a necessary prerequisite. You got to do the training. But I think the big trick here and the real game, what separates people who can go up to these heights and do these dives consistently and safely, is the mental side.
Yeah.
And that is something that I and my fellow cliff divers in the sport have trained rigorously over a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that comes from breath work, meditation, mindfulness, focus, and other tools like visualization and concentration, compartmentalization, being able to find the presence and the mindfulness to focus on solely one task, because it goes by so quick. A cliff dive happens in 90 feet in 3 seconds, and there's so much that can happen, and the consequences are severe, if not fatal. And so, bringing up everybody to speed, I had a very difficult dive, a reverse 2 somersaults with 5 twists.
Jeez.
And I actually successfully completed the dive pretty well, but unfortunately was just a little short of vertical on entry. And so that means I got my feet underneath me, but my upper body was bent forward and didn't quite get vertical, and my arms were out to the side. And so hitting the water at almost 60 miles an hour, my right arm got pushed backwards and up. And unfortunately, that force of impact tore 2 of the rotator cuff muscles, one of which I had already torn previously back in 2016. So this was a re-rupture of one of my rotator cuff muscles, and then had to go in for surgery right away. And thankfully, I had that capability. I have a care team in place in Austria where I was training. An awesome doctor, Dr. Euler. Shout out to the big guy stitched the rotator cuff muscles right back up, and an awesome care team in place. Physio 1.0, my guy Patrick there, and the whole crew took great care of me.
Yeah.
And so it was a rough spot to be in initially. No athlete, no person wants to go through a severe injury like that, especially the second time on the same shoulder for myself. And there was definitely some frustration, doubt, anger, resentment, fear, all of those things.
Yeah.
Why me? Why now? Is my career over?
Yeah.
Is this not meant to be? Am I chasing a stupid dream? Why am I jumping off these high heights? Questions that have not only been asked to me, but asked by myself for a long time.
For sure.
And it can put you in a dark place. And it was tough, for sure. I mean, a couple days of being down and depressed and sad. But thankfully, the training that I've done over the past handful of years prepares me for stuff like this.
Right.
And I was actually pretty chipper about it.
Yeah.
And was able to bounce back pretty quick.
Yep.
And it's really interesting because I had the surgery 5 days after the accident, and I posted a picture from my hospital bed, waking up from surgery. Thumbs up, all good. Had a quote in there from The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Stoicism has been a big part of my life recently, and it was all about, taking the challenge and overcoming it and getting better from it.
Yeah.
And so even one of my best friends who introduced me to Ryan Holiday, Jordan, my training partner who we were just talking about, he kind of freaked out just in the essence of like, you haven't heard from your friend in a week and now you just see him on Instagram in a hospital bed. And so you're just worried about him.
Yeah.
So he reached out with care and love. But it's crazy how many people will send you messages along the lines of like, oh, that sucks. I'm so sorry. Or what a terrible thing. And it's an interesting perspective to take because, of course I had those thoughts initially, but once you get past that and you look at these challenges, these obstacles as blessings and improvements, opportunities for you to grow and evolve and get stronger and get better, it's not so much that I was like looking down on these statements of sympathy. I know they come from a good place and people are reaching out with love and care, but it's like, oh no, man, like I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you. But like, I'm happy this came.
Right.
This is only going to make me better. This is only going to make me stronger. And so, we're sitting here just over 9 months post-operation, and I really do feel like I'm the strongest, healthiest, best diver Dave I've ever been. And I'm stoked for another cliff diving season here to start very, very soon.
It's incredible, that journey of faith, of like being brought to your knees and having this decision to make of like, you're being presented with intrusive thoughts of like, why am I even doing this? Like what caused me to get to this point? And I think the aspect of like God's timing versus our timing, when we're really gripping the wheel, it makes it very difficult for us to see why things happen when they do. But you were presented an opportunity to like double down on all of the practices that had led you to that point, all of the things that you were talking about. And that's when people ask, why do you train? It's for those moments. It's to be ready for any and everything that is presented to you. And then to see the post that you made not too long ago of like a full dive. And I was like, Diver Dave is back and better than ever. And what's incredible is like following your journey and how much you shared about the journey. It's so inspiring for people to realize like no matter what is presented to you, it's the mindset you have towards what's presented to you that's going to help you to take that next step. So I'm stoked that you saw that as an opportunity to dig deep within yourself and inspire a ton of people, but really the most important thing is inspiring yourself to show yourself what you are capable of bouncing back from. And you did that effortlessly. When I was listening to our last conversation, and things like family and community were things that stood out tremendously, what would you say were outside of yourself some things or some people that really helped you along that journey?
Oh, so many. I think we talked about it in the first episode, but I would just reiterate that and I know you, are so lucky to have family and community as a huge part of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think I hit the jackpot. I think we both did.
Yeah.
From a young age, having a loving, supportive, incredible family that's showed me the way, taught me the right things, led by example, and all of the communities that have brought me up through my education, through diving, through friends, through new friends like yourself. It's incredible what the world has given me.
Yeah.
And it really motivates me to give back.
Yeah.
And so, again, in this incredibly challenging time, those communities have had my back. So not only the medical and care teams initially in Austria, the surgery, the physical therapy, the friends to help me through those first 6 weeks where, you know, I've got my arm in a sling and it's hard to cook, it's hard to clean, it's hard to shower. I almost cut my hair. Dude, I'm so glad I didn't do it. I was this close to cutting the hair. And I know you know the struggle because you have curls like mine, but there were a couple times where I was in the shower for like 45 minutes trying to one-armed like detangle with like a brush and conditioner, and I was almost in tears, like I'm just going to cut this beautiful hair and I don't want to.
I can relate, bro. And I have two hands. It's a journey.
Exactly.
That's
I
incredible.
Can't tell you how good it finally felt when I got the arm out of the sling and I could get both arms up there to detangle the hair. But anyways, the communities that I leaned on, those, you know, it's once I got back to California, the care team here via Red Bull and through friends and through family to support me physically, emotionally, mentally, they're huge.
Yeah.
And I can't be grateful enough for all of those incredible pieces in my life. So that combined with the resilience and the fortitude that I've built myself, that's what I would say contributes to a strong success and a strong bounce back from these obstacles, these challenges, these opportunities to get better. So that's been huge.
The desire to give back too. Like, I think by hitting the jackpot, by being given the gift of a supportive, loving family, and the kind of the character that we've been gifted from that situation, and then the community that has been built because of that, the aspect of giving back and creating community and relationships. And I mean, you've seen what's been created through this space and the amount of people that have been touched, but it's like, to me, that is so much bigger than our profession, or like this aspect of selfless service, and like a shepherd of leaving the 99 for the one, and just understanding this yearning that's on all of our hearts to serve. Finding ways to do that in today's society, I think is what lights both of us up. So it's really cool to hear that you were able to, for a moment, not have to give so much to the community, but really feel the support of the community. And that's what community is. That's what's such a beautiful thing for people listening is you spoke on the last part of taking action. So it's very easy, could have been very easy for you to take on a victim mentality. And all of us have different situations. All of us, really have an opportunity to either own our situation and rise up from it, or take the situation as a detriment and kind of meander from the path of taking action. So I think in regards to today's world, and so many people living through social media and not taking the time or energy to step outside of the confines of their own home and find community, find relationships with their family. I think that's such a beautiful thing that you were able to feel, is how important the community is towards our healing, towards our bounce back, because those intrusive thoughts when you're alone can be debilitating. And then when you're able to share those things with people who care about you and own your testimony, I think it's beautiful to see that the community was a big part of the bounce back. And
100%. Well, and I would say it's only fitting that we're sitting here in the studio of the Healthy House. This happened while I was gone and when I got back. So for me to be able to come back after surgery and in full recovery and to come over to this house with you and Mike and Steve leading this community about bettering yourself, becoming healthy, was amazing and inspiring. To come over for the healthy mornings, to hop in the tub, to do the yoga, to do the breath work, to set my day. Like, this was a huge piece of that. So awesome, for me to come home and, again, like you're saying, feel that love, feel that community, and now that I'm fully healthy, to be able to give back and to continue what you guys have started here, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's that ripple effect. That's that echoing of character that I strive for in myself and that I see in you guys, and that I am stoked every time I come over here. And I'm so happy to see your smiling face and to get Mike's energy and to get Steve's energy. Like, it's a thing that we build upon each other.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
And to see the intention behind why we built the space is for exactly that. It's for when you come in here, no matter what's going on in your life, the goal is for you to leave with a fire to then share that with other people. Because health and wellness, to me, it's become such a focal point of every decision that I make in my life. And it alarms me at how many people don't take their health and wellness as seriously as I feel we should. So it's such a blessing to be able to, first of all, hear that and feel that, the impact that's created through really intentionally putting a space together that embodies this importance of health and wellness, physically and mentally, but spiritually as well. Like, I feel like I'm kind of the shepherd that really brings spirituality into the conversation, fearlessly, because it can be a very difficult conversation. And we were speaking a lot on the pod a year ago about both of our quests and the aspect of being, brought up in the church and then drifting from the church and kind of being of the world. And as a young man, it's very easy to get caught up in what the world tells you is fulfilling and what pleasure tells you is fulfilling, to then having this yearning, which to me is the Holy Spirit. It can be energy. It can be, your soul. It's so interesting, this dichotomy of what the world tells you and what you learn through habit is fulfilling, to then something within us kind of pulling us towards a life of service, a life of purity, and this back and forth between what our mind wants and our ego wants compared to what our soul wants. And so that's something that I've always myself gone back and forth with, of asking, okay, well, why do I feel these yearnings? And is this voice within me of God, or is it of myself? And so it's cool to, before the pod started, just have the conversation around what God means to you. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on that subject, because it's something that is so fascinating to me, of my own spiritual journey, and this podcast around who God is and the different kind of branches of the same tree of spirit, and how over the many eons of human history we've tried to create something that makes sense to us and then separate us from the different thing that really roots to the same principle of loving yourself, your neighbor, God in the same way. And then the thing that I think stood out the most at our last conversation, and something I wanted to check in, is the Be the Man manifesto, and what that means to you. And if you want to share that with the listeners. I think it's something that you and I very much so embody, is this aspect of masculinity, of wanting to be the best version of ourselves so that we can inspire other men to be great. But then you've been with a beautiful queen for some time now, and that yearning to be the man that she so desperately needs, and then the aspect of partnership of her being the woman that inspires you to be the man, and what that means, why you wanted to create the manifesto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much there. The journey is huge, and I think we touched on it in the first pod on where we came from, our religious backgrounds, how we went away from it in early adulthood and are coming back to it. And it's really cool and inspiring to hear your journey and to see your example. And I love the vigor that you bring to it and how genuine and how amazing it shines through you and affects other people. And just going back to the space in the house here, every person I see walk in and out of this door is better when they leave. And it's so cool to see the energy and the smiles and the improvement that every person feels leaving this space. And incredible. It's a huge testament to yourself and Mike and Steve and everybody that comes in here to teach and to share and to love. It's really, really awesome to see.
Yeah.
And so I want to touch more on spirituality, and we'll get to that. And I do want to get into the creed, because I know that was a big thing that we talked about last time. And so this had been a personal journey of mine of describing what is my personal mission, what is my vision, what do I see in life, what's my creed. And so this was something that I tasked myself with and was helped along the way from a sports psychologist that I work with at Red Bull, different mentors and leaders that I look up to. And so finally, after having this image and these thoughts in my head for years, it finally put pen to paper and started to come together. And so the mission statement that came from 10 values that I like to look up to and try to embody, that came down to 3 specific ones. And can I craft a single mission statement from that? And so the mission statement at the top of the Be the Man Creed reads, daily discipline creates a courageous leader that serves others. Discipline, courage, service. And that is at the heart of this creed that I try to embody every day. And so this is something that I read to myself, not every single day, but it helps, especially when stuff starts to go sideways or I'm struggling, to bring the focus back into where I want to go, who I want to be, what I want to strive for. And one of my favorite quotes from Aristotle, excellence is not an act, but a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. And so this gives me direction.
Yep.
And so, reading from the top. Today, I strive to be the man. In each moment, accessing my best self to live a fulfilled, passionate, and purpose-driven life. The man is not of one specific race or gender, but simply an embodiment of principles and behaviors that make one self-aware, intent on doing good, and follow through with actions to become a better person. Everyone can be the man. I win the morning with movement, breathwork, meditation, reading, and journaling. I own my day by not being a slave to my devices, but by using technology as a tool instead of a distraction. I am clear about who I want to be, the skills I am learning and mastering, and how I interact with others. I greet people genuinely with a firm handshake or a warm embrace. I look them in the eyes with a smile on my face, and I give them my undivided attention. I aim to make these interactions transformational, more than a trivial transactional exchange. I eat clean and light to nourish my body. I focus on bettering myself by improving the areas I truly have control over: nutrition, training, recovery, mindset, and connection with myself and others. I stay positive because it's important to me and those around me, and the day is too short for negativity. Never whine, never complain, never make excuses. Simple as that. I take my time and am mindful of the moment I'm in, knowing that this is all that's guaranteed. The man is never worried and never in a hurry, never desperate and never stopping short. She persists in her efforts and resists giving in to distraction, discouragement, or disorder. The man is a warrior, a curious competitor that seeks out challenges. They anticipate, embrace, and leverage the obstacles in their path because they know that with adversarial growth, they evolve into better human beings. The man has grit. When things get hard, I push harder. When I fail, I get back up stronger. When I don't see results, I don't get discouraged, but continue to pound away day after day after day with relentless consistency, heart, and passion. Trust the process, focus on effort. Awareness, intention, action. Be the man.
Dude, I just want to take a moment to let that sink in. The power of the words I am, and how powerful of a manifesto that you have created from your actions. Like, you live that. And in the times when you feel maybe straying from that, to be able to pull that out and read that probably brings you right back in to the vibration that you had writing it. And the power of looking at your why, and the power that I believe all of us have to dive deep into our spirit and ask those questions of, why am I here? Bigger than anything that the world tells me I should be doing. Like, so much of that is so spirit fueled, and it has nothing really to do with God above. It has everything to do with the God within you. And so the aspect of spirituality, like, that is so spiritual because it puts this exclamation point at the end of who you are. And to own that, and to really, like, this embodiment of Stoicism. I love that you've been reading a lot of Ryan Holiday stuff, because Stoicism, the beginning of the year, a good friend of mine, Eben, led this meditation challenge where we were up at the sunrise every single morning. We were going back and forth between a Stoic principle and the Tao Te Ching.
Nice.
And the differences between the two are very large, but then there's so much crossover and similarity. But the writing of that, I just love to dive into what type of a journey was that? And did it come effortlessly, or did it take time to, like, because that is something that I hope that you put into physical form and share with people, because it is inspiring, and it's something that is so well crafted. And you were talking about how you've given many speeches, and I remember the last time, this was a few times ago, we saw each other. You were about to give a big speech, and you were kind of honing in on the words. I feel like that is a gift that God gave you, is this ability to put words together that invoke spirit. Like, I felt spirit flowing through you in that, and yeah, wow.
Thank you.
Just a big wow, and a round of applause on that creation, because that's got me juiced up, bro.
Appreciate it, man. It juices me up too. And you know, this is my first time really sharing this publicly.
Wow, bro.
I think I'm
honored.
I've only sent the creed to a handful of people.
Wow.
You know, yourself and Jordan were two of the first ones. I sent it to my girlfriend Siobhan. I sent it to a few others, my sports psychologist, who kind of helped me craft it. But a lot of work went into it. And, you know, it's funny because it's always been there. It was more the action of starting and really putting words to paper that really started bringing it together. I think I have, and a lot of people have, this procrastination, perfectionism difficulty with starting projects like this. And still to this day, I have a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of doubt about, you know, are these the right words? Is this really me? Am I being genuine? Can it be better? That kind of stuff. But, you know, nothing in this world is perfect.
Right.
You got to get started.
For sure.
Perfectionism is procrastination.
Yep.
Just get going.
Yep.
And so it felt so good to finally get a rough draft down, and then to hone it over a couple months. And it really started to take shape into what it is now. And so, you know, these are not all completely original thoughts. A lot of that is Stoicism. It's Ryan Holiday. It's Ben Bergeron. It's great leaders and thinkers before me. And I'm packaging it in a way that feels right and emulates who I want to be and how I want to go about my day.
Yep.
And so by sharing this, I do feel invigorated, and it's cool to hear that it's inspiring to someone else. And I would love to share this in more hard copy form and put more of myself out into the world.
Yeah.
And writing and speaking are things that I'm definitely starting to explore more and would love to explore more down the road.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we talked about the first real public speaking engagement that I did recently. That was really fun and inspirational as well for myself, and got a lot of feedback, positive feedback from those in the crowd.
Yeah.
Telling my story, where I came from, who I am, what I've done, sharing my lows and my bounce backs, my highs, and going about that message of daily discipline creates a courageous leader that serves others. And so that is kind of my mission, and my vision is to help create a world where we can all resonate with those words, to help each other, to lift each other up, and to create a better world for all of us to live and share in. And so it's been a journey, and hitting all these pieces of spirituality and physical training, mental training, emotional health and wealth, and sharing this with all of us that surround each other has been a really awesome experience.
The aspect of words to action, like that is such a practice of faith, and this perfectionism that I think all humans have, because we live in a competitive society. We've been brought up in a competitive society, so we're always comparing our outcome to others. And so to take that courageous leap takes a lot of faith. But I'm in a coaching program right now with Joel Brown, and he talks a lot about how you're going to be able to impact people that I can't impact. But if you never take that courageous leap to impact yourself first, by believing in yourself that you are capable and worthy of inspiring yourself, don't even put the expectation on, I need to inspire other people, or I need to, like, that came from the innermost part of your yearning to be alive. Like when we wake up in the morning, that is our spirit saying we still have work to do. We still have people to impact. So to have these daily disciplines, creating a courageous leader yourself that serves others, that to me, I think, is such a great place to start this spiritual conversation around where we're at now in our walk and what it means to be a man of spirit in the 21st century. And the things that come up when you hear the words faith, spirituality, what are some of the first things that come to your mind? Because our mind is something that can be very loud when we hear those words.
Yeah. Well, those two words have a very different projection inside my mind. So when I hear the word faith, I'm brought back to early childhood years of growing up in the church and Catholic school, K through 12, and some good and some bad. And we've talked about this before, and this is where this conversation is going to go. It's the dichotomy in my mind of, I love the example, I love the lessons, I love the teachings, I love the person Jesus Christ and the message that he gave of being a selfless leader for others. The Jesuit high school motto that I went to, ad maiorem de gloria, for the greater glory of God, but men for others. The Jesuit brotherhood of being a selfless leader is awesome. The flip side of that is the not evil or crazy, but the heaven and hell, the wars, the crimes against humanity, the absolute truths that religion and dogma can teach that I cannot agree with in my current life. And so the word spirituality brings up notions of connection to myself, to other people, to nature, to the universe, to being a leader, to being a man for others, to being of service to this incredible universe that we share.
Yeah.
And so I want to flip this back to you and how you came about your journey and coming back to Christianity and to being a follower and a lover of Christ, and to use the word God in such a invigorating way. How do you separate those two words? How do you find peace in yourself? And where do you fall on those big questions?
Big time. So the Holy Spirit to me is like when Jesus was telling the disciples, like, I'm going to be leaving, but I'm not going to be leaving. Like, I will be with you forever. I feel like we were given this tool of discernment. And so there's certain aspects of the church or even the Bible, where I will read it and my discernment will tell me this is not of God. This is of man. So a lot of those evils that the church and certain individuals have taken advantage of, because spirit is such a vulnerable place for a lot of people, that you can capitalize off of people's vulnerability and their yearning to feel love. At the end of the day, to me, it's like love and fear. And so the spirit is this thing that it's love beyond anything else. Like when you feel completely loved by Creator, there's a way of understanding that you are also a creator. And so to step into this deeper relationship, and for me it was like understanding Christ more, because throughout Old Testament it's like it's putting a spotlight on this Messiah, this Savior,
the Creator.
The Creator.
So was the world created 4,000 years ago?
No. No. And so the aspect of when you really allow the Spirit to be your teacher and not any of these other churches or dogma or even the Bible. I think there's so many ways that if you look at who King James was and you look at all these different tweaks that the Bible has gotten over years and different books that have been taken out and just different things like that to me is where my relationship is strengthened tremendously with God, is through prayer and through meditation. Prayer to me is when we're talking to God. Meditation is when we can hear God. And so these aspects of faith versus fear, and really love versus fear. Faith to me is this knowing that there's something within you and there's something within us that is altruistic, that everything that's happening is of God. And I just recently finished the second of a series called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and he talks tremendous, radical topics that really challenge Christianity. And I think something that you were talking about that hurts is this absoluteness, that what is being said is right, and if you don't believe it, not only are you wrong, but you're going to suffer and burn in hell forever. To me, that is not of God. That is of a controlling, egoically driven decision maker, whether it's man or woman, that wants to manipulate and capitalize off of the vulnerability of our yearning to be loved. So for me, Jesus was this radical teacher that was challenging the church of the time, challenging the religious elite, which is why I believe he was taken off of the earth. But in doing so, anytime any great courageous leader is taken before their time, it only plants more seeds into the souls of the people of that time to be courageous and fearless in their shepherdhood.
I like that. And so sorry to interrupt, would you say it's been easy for you, that power of discernment that you're talking about, to draw those lines and to define your relationship and your definition of God along the way? So we talk about creationism and literalism of the Bible. Obviously, you've drawn a line there. It's easy to separate.
Yeah.
You talk about who God is and what he stands for, and Jesus Christ. So when you talk about the miracles, you talk about the resurrection, you talk about all-powerful being of God, the Holy Spirit, how and where do you draw your lines there?
Great question. I would say there are aspects of my mind that need to be proof driven, right? So I have questions of miracles being performed. My spirit believes wholeheartedly that we are capable, like you and I, are capable of those same things with faith that I believe is bigger than anything that our mind can conceptualize. And so when I meditate on, okay, God, I want to feel your presence, I'll go on visualization of like the universe being created. And then I'll see every single face of every single person that I've ever been in relationship with in my life, of God showing me like, that is God. Like every single person that you've come in contact with is my creation, and I am experiencing creation through the created. Like God wouldn't know God if we weren't created. So it's the aspects of miracles, like you and I are a miracle. The fact that we're here experiencing this is miraculous and hard to describe in words. So the aspect that was Jesus Christ a living God that was walking this earth, performing miracles, my mind has a lot of trouble grasping that. Just like many people in that time probably had trouble grasping it, seeing it real time. But my spirit, when I think of a person dedicating their life to service, Jesus dedicated his life to service. It makes me think of the potentiality that we all have. And over the last couple of years, my life has become more dedicated towards service. And scripture that stands out to me the most is when Jesus was telling the disciples, like the disciples are arguing, who's your favorite? Who's the best? And God's like, whichever one of you leads from the back and is a servant, that is the one who will reap the most benefits. And so our mind, it's hard, especially in the society we've been brought up in, to visualize and understand that and truly embody it. The more I have allowed my spirit to lead rather than my mind to lead, those things just become this effortless dance in which I've seen God play the miracles within my own life in ways that it's hard to describe in words. But to just go back to your question of where is my relation to the aspect of Jesus being God and also human, my spirit knows that to be true. And I think what Jesus was teaching is that we all have bits and pieces of that, but to surrender to something much bigger than ourself being God is where I think it's very important to draw those lines and have these types of discussions, because I think so many of us get caught up in the new age spirituality of like, I am God and I can create the same way that God can. And I think it creates this egoic block of service. And for me, I think that's where my spiritual journey has taken such leaps and bounds, is I look at Jesus as, from a spiritual context, the way that the Bible teaches his ability to perform miracles and things of that nature was because of his steadfast faith and the 40 days in the desert fasting and these different aspects of his practice became his living embodiment. So for us in today's world, it's very easy to get distracted and very easy to be presented a shiny apple and want to go in that direction.
Totally, because we want certainty and we want answers.
And we want to see it.
Right? And we want to feel it. And I appreciate the level of faith without knowing. Yeah. And for sure there is a line between science and the unknown. Right. And so I think a lot of people get caught up in if science can't explain it, then either faith can or cannot. And that's where people draw these hard lines of religion or atheism or somewhere in between. Right. And so to hear your process of what I know and what I don't know and where your spirit takes over is interesting. And it's cool to hear and cool to see. And I think even some of the greatest thinkers of our time, I mean, you look at Stephen Hawking and cosmologists and trying to define the beginning of the universe. And Stephen Hawking was basically on a mission to disprove God. Yeah. And at the end could not, and basically said, I don't know. Right. And so I think that is a really interesting and cool piece to take. And so that's where I still struggle with, like, where science ends, can my spirit and can my faith take over? Right. And for me personally, it can't just jump to there is this all-powerful being that's behind the scenes, right, that's doing all this.
Because I think we've been taught so much that that's this old white man with a beard in the heavens just kind of orchestrating, and that's not it. That's not it.
For sure. For sure. And no, and I think that's hilarious. And it is kind of ridiculous that people still subscribe to that type of religion and theology, that there is the great white guy or even that Jesus was white, which is hilarious and
Right.
it can't be true. But yeah, it's for me, it's still the where is that next step? And so I talked about it in the first podcast. Like, I think we all have this general feeling, this yearning of connection. And is that just human nature, that we want something to fill that void? And religious people will say, well, that's the hole that only God can fill.
Right.
And atheists will say that hole doesn't need to be there. God and spirit don't fill that. That's just you asking questions that there are no answers to. What is the meaning of life? What happens to us after we die? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And so these unanswerable questions, what do we do with them?
Right.
And so are we on a journey to figure those things out? Or are we on a journey to live a life of example and choose how we want to be here for this ridiculously infinitesimally small time in the grand scheme of things? And so, yeah, I'm still battling within myself, and I still look up to people like you, but I still also take wisdom and knowledge from people that may be on a different side.
Totally.
And so it has been a process and a journey to figure out where do I want to fall? Where am I shooting? What am I looking forward? What am I going to? And that was a big piece of the creed, was to give myself some direction, some guidance, some answers to maybe a bit of those questions.
Right.
And so again, it's awesome and inspiring to be in your presence and to hear you speak with such conviction. And so, has there been a lot of change over recent or, the past couple of years? Like, how do you see your faith and your beliefs evolving?
Yeah. To me, it brings a peace to my mind, knowing that I don't need to have the answers, because the mind will constantly say, let's question this and let's analyze this. And it's just never ending. The mind that's what it does. It's a machine. It's the most intricate computer that was ever created. And it wants to have all these answers and proof towards these existential questions. For me, that's exhausting. And it can be debilitating in regards to taking me off of what I believe Jesus said, and even in your creed, that is the most important thing that we should be focusing on the most, is to love our neighbor the way that we love God.
Golden rule.
It is so simple. Like, to me, our spirit yearns to serve others. And in the last few years, I have embodied it so much in all that I do, that the questions that the mind has becomes a lot quieter. And the way that I'm being led is so spiritually fueled that I believe it's a consciousness that we all have within us. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of time with God. I think if you are filling your time with distractions and pleasures and things that are very mind-centered, you are going to hear the Spirit very softly in the background, but it will slowly become softer and softer and softer, because it's not going, the aspect of free will, it's not going to take you by the collar and say, hey, you need to get your shit together. My spiritual quest has presented a lot of different opportunities for me to see people not only challenge my faith, but present different things that are catastrophic in regards to, like, I don't have the answers. I am presented with a lot of people's either pain or struggles or questions in which my mind wants to immediately have an answer to and wants to share. My spirit allows there to be stillness, allows there to be unknown, and to just hold space with people. A lot of clients, their initial sign up with me is like, hey, I want to get into better physical shape. I want to master my mind. And then I tell them a little bit about my spiritual journey and what I offer in regards to spiritual coaching. And it's so beautiful to see all of our spirits speaking the same language. And I think it's been so interesting in my own life to see how much fear and response comes from the word faith and the word spirit, and the difference between the two. But to me, I think they're so similar in regards to our desire for peace and our desire for knowing that we are doing what we were put here to do, which is, in my opinion, to serve others. But you can't serve anyone if you're not serving yourself. So that aspect of our spiritual journey is learning how much God loves us and how God gave us a specific gift. Some of us were given a tremendous amount of gifts, and that can sometimes be difficult to then find this aspect of turning words into action. So for me, the spiritual quest the last couple of years has been finding, okay, how can I best serve the world? And then that's very broad, and that can be very overwhelming. So it boils down to, how can I best serve myself? And from that, serve the person that's right in front of me. And that, to me, is how Jesus was living his life. And so that aspect of like all these different religions and all of the different wars and all of the aspects of corruption within the church, Catholicism, and, we may have spoken on this. When I was in the Vatican, it did not feel energetically of God. It felt energetically very totalitarian, greed, hoarding. Like it felt, very, very much so out of alignment with a lot of Jesus's teachings. So I think my compass is spirit. And I think that's a compass that Jesus was saying we all have. Mm-hmm. And so the aspect of our daily practices, like your creed says, it's adjusting our compass towards the thing that I think is most fulfilling. And we can have all of the material objects of the world. We can have all of the things that the world tells us will make us happy. Mm-hmm. That hole that cannot be filled outside of God, I truly believe, is our spiritual quest. It's very difficult to find that overnight. And I think a lot of people nowadays, they want answers now. Mm-hmm. And the thing that has unfolded for me and is still unfolding, and I think is an ever unfolding process, is bigger than fulfilling the mind's desires and the body's desires, but it's something that is everlasting. And that's the thing that I always delve deep into meditation and prayer about, is this aspect of forever, of eternity. It's hard for my mind to wrap around. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that this one life, this blip that you were talking about that we were given, every decision that we're making is towards what awaits. And the back and forth of what awaits based upon what decisions we're making now. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to ponder and to discuss. And I think the thing that always just comes back is the simplicity of Spirit saying, serve others the way that you wish to be served. Love God the way that you love others. And that simplicity brings me into this place of peace and this place of knowing. Like, our mind is always wanting to know. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't know about you, my mind never knows. Like, it's always changing. It's always wanting different things, like by the hour. Mm-hmm. Dropping into the Spirit, it's like there's no words. It's just this eternal knowing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in a sense it should be that way. I love that quote that I shared with you earlier, no man steps in the same river twice, because not only is the river changing, but so is the man. And so there's a lot that resonates there with the unknowing and the spiritual yearning and guidance of service towards others. And I think spiritual health can be that connector between physical, mental, and emotional and others in the universe at large. And so there's a lot that you said that resonated with me. And I had a similar experience in the Vatican. I mean, it's very beautiful. And it's special, and the Sistine Chapel and the ceiling and everything, but it's like so over the top. And you think about all these incredible churches and religious structures and all these things where, like, especially in olden times, like that was the nicest, best place in town. And how can the church have such an amazing wealth and let their people live in squalor. And so, you mentioned a statement about we're all given these gifts from God, and they're all different. And you talked about us wanting these answers of what happens at the end, and the end is different for everybody. And obviously life is unfair. And so how do you wrestle with, why does God give certain people certain gifts if we are created?
Yeah.
And why are certain people born with disorders or diseases? Why are certain people given natural destruction, hurricanes, earthquakes, wipe out their town, their civilizations? And where is the all-loving, all-powerful being that's sharing this totally corrupt and unfair world?
Yeah. That is one of the biggest wrestles I have with God. And the constant affirmation I get it's the same thing that happened to me during COVID. Like when COVID was happening, I was angry with God. I was shouting at God, like, this is an atrocity. You know, I've shared with people on the pod my views on COVID and that whole situation, but I felt like it was deception to the next level. And it was leading people towards fear rather than faith. And so,
sorry, I might have missed those episodes. Can you just quickly expand on what do you mean by fear versus faith with COVID?
So taking people's sovereignty and making them depend on something outside of themselves, like a vaccine or like the pharmaceutical companies, rather than like what we stand for, preventative healthcare, and taking ownership of the things you put in your body, the community you surround yourself with, like the daily practices that we all have are our best healthcare. Mm-hmm. And in Los Angeles, if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't work, you couldn't travel. There was a lot of propaganda through media outlets that were creating a bit of a disconnect between people who wanted to have medical sovereignty and people who wanted to just be free. They just wanted to be able to go outside and live life. So they were like, okay, I'm going to get the vaccine because that's what I'm being told is what needs to be done, rather than looking a little deeper at ways that we can bulletproof our systems in, again, the preventative actions of lifestyle medicine.
So you think the lockdowns and the mandates were unfair, unjust?
In my opinion, yes. Mm-hmm. I believe that the immunity that is built through, heaven forbid someone gets sick and dies. And this goes to your question prior of like, why would God allow these things to happen? An all-loving God. It brought into my spirit this knowing that there are things that happen around us and there are beings around us like angels that it's not on us to come up with an answer of, okay, someone's born with autism or someone's born with a physical deformation. There's a pastor, don't know his name, but he, no arms, no legs, had every opportunity to curse God and speak ill on the situation that he was given. He's one of the most influential pastors in the world and looks at life as a blessing in the aspect of what he was given. To close on the COVID stuff, I looked at that as such a separation from our ability as human beings to create bridges and to listen to one another constructively. Mm-hmm. And there was an absolute that was given to us of like, this is the way that you need to respond to what has been given to us. And I still feel like there are answers that are left unanswered in regards to so many things that happened and the repercussions from that. But to tie back to the first question, God to me is giving all of us an opportunity to let go of the wheel. So when a natural disaster happens and innocent people are killed, in my opinion, there is a space of freedom that is created from us, from an oxytocin level. We galvanize around this inner yearning of helping and serving. And a lot of times we get so caught up in the world that God does something like that to shake us a little bit. I think back on some of the things that have happened this year, of where there's an earthquake and some of the surrounding countries that are usually at war with these countries, putting all of that to the side, because there's a time when humans need help, and you can pause your egoic need to be right and put others first. Or when you see someone who wasn't given the gift that you were given. Anytime I see in Los Angeles any homeless person, it gives me this opportunity to think of not only their story and what got them to that point, but the aspect that this life here is so short. What is the bigger meaning behind each and all of our kind of our testimonies and our stories? So I truly believe that God gives all of us individual gifts and individual stories for us to either own and use as our way of serving others, or own and use as a way of isolating, alienating. And these questions are so existential in the way that I myself don't have an answer as to why an all-loving God would create that. I truly don't know if it's God that is creating that, or if it's the surroundings and the ways that we have created it upon ourselves. And I think God created us to create. So that aspect of the different things that have been created here on earth that have caused a lot of these illnesses, that have caused a lot of these separations in regards to wealth versus poverty. I think God is continuously reminding us that we have the potentiality to solve all the problems that are in the world, or at least not deflect them and put our rose-colored glasses on and say, I'm only going to focus on my life and the great hand that I've been dealt, rather than so many of us having the opportunity to serve from a place of like Christ consciousness, but not choosing that route because it is uncomfortable and because it requires putting our life second and putting others' lives first. So I think God gives a lot of us the opportunity to see from a lens of not rose-colored glasses, but from the reality of the harshness of what life can present, but the opportunity for us to meet it with a place of love. So it can invoke a lot of fear, and it can take you off of the path of serving. Whereas for me, the thing that brings me the most peace, and this is just my belief, is that God sends a lot of angels to the earth, and angels being both people and situations, to kind of shake us to the core of what is really important and what we're really here to be doing, which is serving one another, and really understanding how that, to me, that is heaven, in a place where none of us are making decisions based upon what we want, but on what we want. So not what I want, but what's best for us. And that's a lot of what we've tried to create here in the Healthy House, is like holding space for others to see what our gifts are, and then invoke and inspire their gifts, and the gatherings that take place outside of this space because of things that have started here as a spark that then carry out into the world. It's like, those are the things that bring me a better understanding of like, control what you can control. And that was what God was telling me during COVID, is like, I have a bird's eye view of what all of this is happening for. And it's, to me, it's this aspect of revelation of like the lifting of the veil.
Mm-hmm.
I have questions for God all the time of why are there such, I don't look at it as good and evil. I just look at it as truth and not truth. Why is there so much deception? Why is there so much trickery around what is actually happening behind closed doors and what we see is actually happening? And I just continuously get the gentle reminder of like, control what you can control, take action upon the things that you can positively influence the people around you and the community around you, and that ripples outward, and that invokes a spirit of courageousness, of love, of compassion.
I do like that, and I'd say that's where I can meet you. And so the wrestling with the unfairness, the unjustness of life and the world, and war and natural disasters and sickness and disease. And sometimes we know why earthquakes happen, and we know how monsoons and typhoons are created, but we don't necessarily know why certain disease or disorders happen, or why certain countries or people decide to invade and inflict harm on other sovereign nations.
Yeah.
And so there is an unfairness and an unjustness in this world, and we can all recognize that. And so whether or not we have those answers, I do like the opportunity for love and service that creates, and that space for spirit to take place.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say I can meet you with spirituality here, and that's what I love. And so that's where I look forward to pushing forward together with.
Yeah.
And so that's where the rubber meets the road for me.
Definitely. And that's where like the actionable steps start to come in, because I'm always a solutionist. I'm trying to think of, okay, how can we bring heaven to earth now? And to me, it's like, especially reading Conversations with God, there's so many ways that we could implement systems that would, I mean, ending suffering, I don't think is possible, but bringing suffering from this place of like normal to a place of very rare. And when a natural disaster happens, or when you see someone suffering, our natural intrinsic desire is to help. And so a world where we are looking to help one another rather than hurt one another. Competition's great when it's done in a friendly, controlled environment, but like the aspect of always wanting to step on your brothers and push people out of the way so that you can get to the top of the hill, and then getting to the top of the hill and realizing that there's still this unfulfilled quenching that I truly believe only Spirit can fill. That's what burns the fire within me to have the podcast and do what we're doing, is to inspire one person to live a life similar to who inspired me. It was Christ, to live a life of service, not when it's convenient, but as our focal point of energy. And I think that's what's going to usher in this new wave of consciousness and create a world that I pray that if I'm blessed to have kids and their kids, like to truly think grander than what is my life and how can I live the easiest, most comfortable life? Mm-hmm. Like, how can we actually step out of comfort and seek discomfort mm-hmm. and really push ourselves towards this this way of creating solutions? Mm-hmm. And I think we live in a beautiful time that there is a lot of comfort, and there's a lot of opportunity for us, especially as men, to dig a little deeper towards our emotional state and ways that we can heal, ways that we can take strides that I don't believe our fathers or our grandfathers were really given the opportunity to, which is why I think there's a lot of healing of the masculine that is creating space for a lot of the healing of the feminine as well. And we're seeing a lot of the pendulum that swings so far kind of come to a center point and usher in these healthy types of relationships where the family dynamic is not, the world has its way of promoting a dynamic of sabotage in that regard. And I think we see a lot of the problems in the world because there are a lot of broken families, and there are a lot of broken relationships, and there's a lot of eye for an eye mentality in this world that has caused so much of the problems. But when you control what you can control and you start to invoke these daily disciplines, that sparks this spirit within us of, I can create change. I can be the man and be with someone. And I'd love to segue to this topic of like, what does it mean to create a whole yourself? Yeah. And allow yourself to be a magnet for the people that are coming into your life, like your partner, like the friends that you have, like the community that's being created, and see it as this opportunity to be the change and also be challenged by the people within your circle. Because without that, when we alienate ourselves from that, it is so easy for us to get caught up in the mind games of, God, how could you be doing this? Why are you doing this? And how someone like, pronounce her name? Siobhan has come into your life, and the friends that you have come into your life almost as angels, of like you doing the work to be the man and create and invoke change in the world that our spirit so desperately wants to see. And it empowers me towards the spiritual journey of like, me and my relationship with Clarissa has presented so many opportunities for me to double down on who I want to be as a man, who I want to be as a partner, and who I want to be as a leader within this world. It's like God gives you these opportunities to put words to action. And so for you, like, to pose the question to you in those arenas of life where you're posed an opportunity like an injury, or questions of the many aspects of the world that seem to be daunting or seem to be out of alignment with spirit. Like what are some of the ways that you have been a magnet for people like her and people like the friends, and just, I think God speaks to us a lot in our circumstances. So the ways that you're able to courageously leap out of bed in the morning and be this person who I think a lot of people gravitate towards and look up to, and kind of owning that as your spiritual journey without this this need to know. I think a lot of times our mind wants to know, but what are those things that kind of bring this knowingness to you and kind of bring peace to your spirit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I would say I really resonate with what you said just a little bit ago about like, why would you step on your fellow man to get to the top? Because again, it's going to be lonely there at the top. So why can't we communally bring each other up? And that's what I love about you and the space here and the people that come in and out of this space. It's we're all working on building each other up to our best possible selves.
Yeah.
And so that's that journey that I've been on over a lifetime, but especially these last few years. And that's where I was so incredibly grateful enough to cross paths with Siobhan. And it's somebody who I recognize a lot of the same qualities that I strive for in myself, I see in her. And so, I mean, I can't say enough good things about her. I'm madly in love with her, and I look up to her in so many ways. And so our relationship is built on those principles of continually trying to improve ourselves to then love and care for and lift up each other and the world around us. And it's something that this whole journey of coming back from my injury, relying on the communities that have helped me along the way and brought me back to where I want to be and where I want to go, and then being able to give back. And so that's something that I'm so grateful and in love with Siobhan for, because we help each other and we push each other to reach that level. And so it's that constant quest for self-excellence and group excellence that I think helps me be the person that I am. And so it's an honor to hear that people look up to me and that I can inspire others and that I can make this world a better place and have positive change.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a little bit of a testament to the personal work that I've done, but I really echo it back because, you know, all of these great things that I've done have come from great places and great people before me. That example set by my family, those love and teachings and the education in the community and the role models and the mentors that I look up to. And so I really am just an echo of that. And so for me to now find that person, that queen in my life, who I can see that reflection and I can see that next level of excellence that I strive to be, and we can help each other, we can challenge each other to grow. It's been one of the coolest things that's ever happened in my life. And so, yeah, I look forward to the ongoing process of continually falling in love with her, to be vulnerable and open and sharing and growing and evolving, because I think, something that you've talked a lot about on this podcast is divine masculinity. Yeah. And so I think, thankfully society today is getting away from that old macho, cheesy, stone cold, men can't cry, and the old ways of what men look like and should be.
Right.
And so to have a partner who I can be totally vulnerable and open with, to feel known, seen, and loved and heard, and to echo that back to her, and then try to be that example for everyone around us, is an incredible feeling. And so I feel really lucky to have some great examples of what love and relationships can and should be. And it's awesome to have it in my own life as what my own personal experience with love and relationships can be, and the feelings that it gives me, and the incredible vigor in which that I can now go about my day.
Yeah.
Because just the thought of her and the thought of us spending time together and what we can do and what we will do lights me up like nothing else.
Yeah. And it gives us such, as men, purpose. I think the aspect of our spirits yearning as well is like partnership. It means that we have to be whole, like ourselves. And so it for me, it's given me such this new perspective on who do I want to be for my partner. Because a lot of times when I was younger, it was like, what do I need my partner to be for me? And I focused more so on who I am and who I can be for her, that it then is this ebb and flow between how we can help one another to be the best version of ourselves collectively. And then in turn, that helps us to just inspire and uplift and give to all those who come into our lives. And something I wrote down of like, where have you been challenged in the spirit? It was beautiful, those questions that were posed to me, because it's like those are challenges that I think we all have in our mind's desire for answers from God. And I think those aspects of prayer and those aspects of meditation really give us an opportunity to create and to take those yearnings of knowing and have this stepping stone presented to us of ways that we can actually create tangible change in the world and leave a lasting impact. And it's inspiring to see that both of us have a lot going for us in our lives, but at the end of the day, we both want to be of impact and of service. And in regards to shepherdhood and being fearless in that, what would you say you have in store for you in 23 in regards to ways that you have this beautiful relationship that you're fostering and you're gardening, you have your professional career that you're gardening and you're blooming, but what is the thing that from a mind, a body, and a spiritual aspect do you want to be challenged more? In what ways are you looking to grow in 23? In what ways are you trying to expand upon a lot of what we've been talking about this last hour?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. It goes up there with some other big questions that I've taken from other sources, other podcasts, other mentors and role models. How do you define success, and how are you going to make an impact? And so those are two things that I can define in personal, professional, relationship ways, but in my spiritual growth, that's a really good challenge for me. And so moving forward with this year, yes, my focus is on competing and being the best athlete I can be. Yes, it's being the best partner and brother and role model and mentor and coach and friend with all those personal people in my lives. But spiritually, I want to put out into this world the best version of myself to do what we've been talking about, communally lifting people up and making a positive impact on this place that we get to call home.
Yeah.
And so I want to achieve success on my own terms, but more importantly, have an impact on those around me and this world at large, to be that shining light and to be that example, because we're in an incredible time, like you've said, but we're in a sore need for more positivity and joy and love. And so that's where that daily discipline creates a courageous leader that can serve others. And that's where I want to put my spirit out into the world and just help bring people up.
We're doing it.
That's the hope. That's the goal.
Yeah. Consistently showing up day in and day out. And I like to ask prayer requests. Do you have any prayer requests that you'd like to be prayed for? Because I think the thing that Spirit is this collective consciousness. And I think when we pray for others, that vibration is so much stronger than when we're praying for ourselves. So if you have any prayer requests, I'd love to pray for you.
I appreciate that. I love that you start and end things with prayer. And I would say for now, let's pray for those that need that help, that need that strength, that need that motivation and that discipline. Because I'm riding high, and I know you are too. So we're going to attack our day and we're going to win it. But for those that are hurting and struggling right now, I hope that they can find the courage and the love and the spirit to move forward and push on like we do.
God, we invite you into this conversation as we have for the entirety of it, and just with our open hearts and our minds that desire answers, that I pray that you can bring us clarity and peace, knowing that the things that seem unfair, that you have a grand orchestra and you are the conductor of something much bigger than our minds can conceptualize. But I pray for every soul on this planet that you're able to bring the basic needs to each and every soul, that we're able to collectively rise up, that this collective conscious, this spiritual revolution that's taking place in our time, that we're able to be the change, and that each and every person feels this spirit, this opportunity to feel loved and be taken care of, that our basic needs can be met. I pray that more and more leaders rise up and more people feel a yearning to give more than they take, and to really embody these practices so that they may step into their lives and be selfless and be courageous more and more. And I pray over this world that people like David and I can take the abundance that's been given to us and that we've strived for all of our lives, and that we can share it and we can inspire others to take ownership of the things that they can control, and to be able to step into community in a way that isn't about competition, but is about collaboration. I pray that you can fuel our spirits to see you in each other's eyes, and that we can collaborate with leaders, not only in the city of Los Angeles, but around the world, and create solutions towards the problems that we see today. And I pray that the people who are vulnerable, or that are lacking community or are lacking connection, that you're able to just bring your presence into their spirit, and that you're able to light a flame that gets them out of their comfort zone, that helps them to step outside of their zone and to feel supported, seen, understood, loved, and that you can just give more opportunities to people who are really enveloped in their life and their desires, that they can take a bird's eye view of how short this life is and how much fulfillment comes from serving others. And I just pray for a world where all the needs of every single soul are met, and that we can celebrate, and that we can rejoice, and that we can dance and sing and play and find purpose, that all of us know the gift that you gave to us, and that there's no more searching, that we know the gift that we were put here to share, and that we share it effortlessly, and that we're given more than we could ever want because our needs are met and we see the needs of others around us met. And I just pray for that bridge, heaven on earth. I pray for all deception to be dispelled, and that all of these rose-colored glasses can be taken off, and that we can actually have a desire to get dirty and to do the work and to just love on each other more than our minds can ever imagine. And just pray over the health of David, pray over the health of myself, our families, and that we're able to do the work day in and day out and enjoy the work, enjoy the process of your timing. And I'm just grateful for a friend like David, that we're able to come together and have a conversation around some of these big existential questions, and to celebrate each other's success, and to push each other and lean in on friendship. And I pray that more men can step up into this aspect of leadership and this aspect of friendship, and being the light in our relationships, that we can be the men that the world so desperately needs, and to step into the creator that you created us to be. Thank you, God, for this life, for our health, and for the opportunity for us to be fearless shepherds, to step into the unknown with courageous faith, for the example that was set by Jesus, and for the example that we get to set for future generations ahead. We thank you, we love you, and in your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
So many great moments in the conversation, and I appreciate your time. You coming over here after a 4 a.m. beach run, and I look forward to listening back to your creed. That was something that really stood out in this conversation.
Thanks, man.
The man that you are, and the work that you still see ahead, and these ways that we can invoke spirit in conversation is incredible. So thank you for, stepping into the uncomfort of that conversation. And
you too.
How can people follow your journey, for those that want to see the bounce back season of your journey in diving?
All things David Colturi. You can go to davidcolturi.com. Newly created website.
Let's go.
Hey, shout out to Steven and Nikhil for helping me with all that. And yeah, social, Instagram is the big one, D Colturi. Red Bull Cliff Diving does a great job capturing all things cliff diving.
So dope.
And yeah, I'm excited to move forward, man. Love that prayer at the end. Love, collaboration, and courage.
That's what it is, bro. I think we're ascending from this age of competition and greed into an age of collaboration and abundance. And abundance isn't, to me, it's like redefining abundance, because we've been taught abundance is like having 5 houses, all the cars, all these things. But again, that's a lonely trail. If you're not sharing your abundance, like, to me, that is what abundance is you have so many needs met that you just want to give to others whose needs aren't met.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man, I'm excited to see how we both step into that courageously, and how we both continue to keep our hands open. Because I think a lot of times when you were given the blessing of a mother and father that loved you, and a family that you could lean in on, sometimes we have this guilt of like, why me? Why was I given this gift and other people weren't? It's like, we were given this gift to show people what it feels like to be in a family. That's why I'm so stoked on what I get to do. It's like I consistently show up to love people, and you're doing the same thing. So God bless you, and look forward to playing some volleyball with you soon.
Heck yeah, dude. Let's spread that love, build that community and family.
Another episode coming to an end. Thank you, David. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, my man.
It's amazing how quickly conversation goes when you're speaking about life and God. A lot of these questions that can spark fear, spark judgment. That's what this podcast is all about. And really, that's what life is all about, is to step into faith with a yearning for knowledge. So if you want to learn more, if you want to donate to the cause, my name is Kyle Cassidy. I am the founder of the Fearless Shepherds, and I cannot do this alone. So I would love to hear from you more. You can follow our movement on Instagram or TikTok at Fearless Shepherds. My personal account, Kyle Cassidy Fitness on Instagram, or shoot me an email, spiritmovement3@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.